Hello, welcome to the Veiled Oracle. My name is Nzinga. On this channel, we talk about African traditional spirituality with a focus on the Shona traditions of ancestor reverence. Sit with me for a while as we look to the wisdom of the ancients for solutions to some of our modern day problems. Keep in mind that we are spirit having a human experience. Today, I'm going to share with you my journey of becoming a Shikiro spirit medium. I know for those of you who have watched the episodes that I posted before this one question that probably has been at the back of your minds is, how did she get to be a spirit medium? Sit with me by the fireside and I will tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a girl who grew up in a village. While her father worked in the mines of the big companies that had come to their lands to dig the earth for precious minerals, her mother stayed behind in the village. And her mother was the only parent she knew at that time. Unbeknownst to her, however, this particular village was special. It was special because it was the village of the chief. Her father was one of the sons of the second wife of this chief. As is tradition in the chief's village, there is a boma, a place where elders come to discuss matters of importance to the village. Only men sit in the boma, as was the culture then. Of course, now there are some women chiefs who also have access to the boma. But this is way back. Women were not allowed in the boma unless if they were bringing food. But children had access regardless of their age and sex, as long as they were still unable to comprehend adult conversations. They were allowed to roam free. So it so happened that this little girl, let's call her Zinga, as she was playing with her age mates, they wandered off to the boma. And of course, the grandfather, in his indulgence of his grandchildren, welcomed them. And he set his little granddaughter on his knee as they continued talking about the issues. It so happened that the particular issue they were talking about on this day had something to do with their direct family and the intricacies of interfamily relationships that relate to patriarchal lineages, that relate to intermarriages and the implications of the relationship on the relationships between chiefdoms let's say, a discussion of a highly political nature. So as this young girl, who was maybe about 5 years old or 6 years old, as this young girl sat on her grandfather's knee, while she was distracted by the childlike mannerisms, touching her grandfather's hair, playing with his beads, jumping off to pick something from the fireside, picking a few twigs and leaves, playing with them as toys, and coming back to sit on her grandfather's knee. At one point, a question was voiced, and all the elders sat in silence, digesting the question and formulating responses according to the dictates of their cultural norms, value systems, and practices. And in that silence, this little girl piped up. In her child's voice, she proceeded to expound on the intricacies of the matter that was before them, and to present a solution that left all the elders thumped. They stared at her. They looked at each other. They looked at her grandfather, and they stared at her again. And in that moment, it was known. The great ancestor had chosen his vessel. Of course, the necessary procedures were done. The first one always being to go to the diviners and ask what is the import of what has just happened. And they were told, what more do you need to know? The ancestor has spoken. They have chosen who they shall channel through. What this little girl did not realize was that, according to the elders that sat at that boma, there was something very wrong with her being the chosen one. And they did not like it one bit. You see, she came from the wife that was least favored. She came from the wife that was the second wife. They would have preferred that the medium be chosen from the offspring of the first wife. But of course, spirit is not interested in the political machinations of the living. They choose who they choose, and whoever came with the responsibility to be the medium, regardless of which wife they are born of, that child, that person will be the medium. Things were not looking good for this little girl. And her mother was very worried, for she knew what it would mean. It would mean that her little girl was going to be a target. A target by those families that would have preferred the chosen one came from their own line. To cut a long story short, there were caucuses at night. There were secret visits to more diviners. Diviners that speak to spirit and to medicine men that have no issues to work with dark magic. Soon it came to the attention of the mother. Take your child out of this village immediately, or her life is in danger. For it has been plotted to bring an end to her life, to deprive the great ancestor of their chosen vessel, so that they can be persuaded to channel through another. So in the middle of the night, the little child was woken up, bundled, and stealthily walked away from the village, where she never set foot again. When this little girl was taken back to her father, and her parents discussed what had happened, they agreed between themselves that they were not going to talk about this to the child. They would let her grow in the city and lead a normal life away from the dramas of the spirits and the living back in the village. And indeed, she grew up totally oblivious to the responsibility and the burden that she carried. She grew up pretty much a normal life, with the few occasions which her parents would tell her of later. Her parents would tell her about later when she grew up, that there were moments when they would wake up to hearing her supposedly speaking to herself. But when they entered her room, she would be sitting on the bed and she would say, "Didn't you see them?" And they would ask, "Who?" And she would say, "Oh, my friends, they had come to talk to me. They walked out just as you walked in. Didn't you meet them at the door? Didn't you see them at the door?" This worried her parents, for they knew that these so-called friends were not the right kind of friends. These were the shadows, reaching out, seeking her out, so that she could be eliminated, so that she could be persuaded to follow them to the dark side. They did what they could to protect her. Fast forward a few years. This girl has now grown up. She's now a preteen. She's doing everything that normal girls do. It so happens that her own parents do not go to church. but they encourage her to go to church for some spiritual grounding. And she does religiously every Sunday. But young as she is, she starts noticing some things. And one day, she does not go to church. On that day, her mother was away from home. She had been away, she had gone to visit relatives. So only her father was around. So he asks her, I notice you're still in bed. You're still hanging around the house. Today is Sunday. Why are you not going to church? And she says, I am not going. And I'm not going. I'm not going, and I shall never go again. And of course, her father was curious as to the reason why. And she explained to him that she had observed certain patterns of behavior. She had observed certain dynamics. And she had asked herself, if we come here to come together and learn about the 10 Commandments and how to live by those 10 Commandments, how come most of the people around the congregation are not respecting those commandments? She had observed the levels of vicious gossip. She had observed the fake prayers. She had observed the materialistic nature. She had observed the pattern of friends, elders, older members of the congregation coming to church for things other than worshiping the Creator. And it had bothered her. And she was only 13 years old, but at that moment, she resolved. She knew the difference between right and wrong. And she was going to live her life abiding by the 10 Commandments that she had been taught. And she concluded that doing that did not depend on whether she went to a particular building or not. Young as she was, she had made the realization that she could strive to live by the dictates of what constitutes to be a good person on her own and not have to feel bound or beholden to attend a particular congregation, to a particular schedule. She had expected her father to be upset with her, but interestingly enough, he just laughed. He laughed so hard he was slapping his thigh. And she just gaped at him in amazement at this totally unexpected reaction. Of course, his Amy's reaction was to make sense a few years down the line, when she turned 24 years of age. Now, there's no particular significance to the 24, except that that is when she had completed her university education and had graduated. And that is when the ancestors decided to step forward. Out of a class of around 50 graduates, which was a very small class in comparison to the other degree programs at the university that she had attended, she was the only one that had failed to secure employment. I will not go into the details of how that happened, the intricacies of how the opportunities kept slipping through her fingers. For instance, the place where she had gone for internship, where they had assured her that a position would be availed to her when she graduated, suddenly turned on her and told her that her position had been filled in her absence. The army, which was recruiting for officer cadets, where her colleague had just been enrolled the previous day, when she went to the recruitment office, she was advised that recruitments had been frozen. And on her way home, she met another colleague who told her that she had been signed up an hour after she had left and been told positions were frozen. You can see where I'm going with this. Doors were being shut left, right, and center. She got so desperate, she was thinking of suicide. She contemplated suicide so thoroughly, it was no longer a question of whether or not she was going to take her life, but how she was going to do it. So desperate was the situation. Her mother sought assistance from her friends. By this time, her father had passed on, and her mother was all alone, trying to figure out how to handle this situation. She was guided to diviners because all her friends kept telling her, this is not normal, this is not natural, there is something else of a deeper nature going on. And if you do not go to the diviners, you'll only be doing your daughter a disservice. And the mother, seeing how her daughter was so desperate and had given up, reached out to some of the diviners that she was referred to. And every single one of them, without exception, told her, your daughter is a vessel of an ancestor guide from her lineage. It is time that she acknowledges and does the necessary to receive this spirit guide. poor woman was at a loss. Here she was, having been raised by nuns at a missionary school, knowing nothing about traditional spirituality. Her only knowledge of African traditional spirituality being that they were all witch doctors who practiced dark magic. And here she had a grown-up, university-educated daughter that she had to introduce this very unusual and awkward subject to. But she had no choice. So with trepidation, she approached her daughter. My child, have you considered seeking alternative kinds of help for the problem you're facing? And the child's response was, yes, Mama, I've given my CV to all the recruitment agencies in town that I can find, and all of them tell me the same thing. They cannot understand how I am failing to get a job because everything else is just right. And the mother said to her daughter, I meant other kinds of alternatives. Would you mind, my child, if I took you to a diviner? I have been, and there are some things that I've come across that I think you should hear for yourself. And at this time, the young woman was so desperate and was so far gone she had reached a point where she had told herself, at least by the time I kill myself, when I go to meet God, I should be able to say, I tried. Such was the dark night of the soul. Such was the darkness of the valley that she was walking through. So, to be able to say to the Creator, I tried, she went along with her mother. And what had been told to the mother was repeated to the child, who was now a young woman. She was also hearing this kind of talk for the first time in her life. You have a great ancestor of your lineage, she was told. And this ancestor has been looking after you since you were born. There was a time when your clan's people would have had you buried beneath the earth. But she stood watch and protected you. And she watched over you every step of the way until you finished your education. And now she feels that since you have attained those things of the earth that are necessary. It is now time that you acknowledge the things of the Spirit. And this young woman just cried. And as she cried, she wailed, "I don't want to be wearing those feather head dresses like a witch doctor." And her mother jumped in to apologize because the man who was seated across them delivering this message was dressed exactly the way she was describing. And of course, with profuse apologies, the mother was like, "Oh, please forgive her. She doesn't understand. You know these young people." And the gentle soul just nodded sagely and said, "Do not worry. In time, she will come to understand." So the question was asked, are you prepared? And the young woman was adamant. She was not going to go that route, and inquired of the diviner what it would mean to accept this ancestor spirit guide. And much to her relief, she was told, she just wants you to know and acknowledge her presence. She comes from the light. She is an ancient spirit of this land and is channeled through others before you. You are too young to do the work now, and she will tell you when the time is right for you to do the spiritual work. For now, she just wants you to acknowledge her presence and to work with her so that she can continue to guide you as you go into adulthood. That sounded fair enough. And this girl was so desperate. And since the acknowledgement did not come with any task on her part, she decided to give it a try. So they were given the instructions to brew the traditional beer, to acquire the relevant clothes that go with that particular spirit guide, and see what happened. So they did what they'd been instructed, and sure enough, the very next week, she bumped into one of the staff members of the place where she had done her internship and had been told that her position had been given to another. And he said to her, "We have been looking for you." "What do you mean?" she said. Your job. What about it?" "Well, isn't it you were supposed to assume work with us? The boss has been looking for you. When are you ready to start work?" And she was totally flabbergasted. And she stammered, "Well, as soon as possible." And she was told, "Yes, come tomorrow." And that was it. In the middle of the month, in the middle of the week, she went to start her employment. I will leave you to digest that story. I cannot say, and she lived happily ever after, because this is just the beginning of her journey. For those of you who are familiar with shamanic traditions, this story would have made a lot of sense. Firstly, because contrary to what a lot of people believe about ancestor mediumship, is that it is not something that you choose. You are chosen. Secondly, being chosen is not a walk in the park. Usually, spirit exposes you to a trial, challenges that force you to seek answers. It is not pretty, the call of the spirit. For it is designed to disrupt your existence at that particular moment, your existence in the secular world, to rudely awaken you to the existence of the spirit world in a way that shakes your worldview. And then when you wake up, then they confirm. So I know some of you will be thinking, well, if they are good spirits, why would they cause misery? Shouldn't they just give you the good things? As we go through some of the topics we're going to talk about later on this channel, I'm going to have to re-educate the immature among us who think spiritual work is all sunshine and roses, that it's all rainbows and pretty things. As we go through some of the topics I'm going to talk about, hopefully I will be able to convey to you, the watcher, you beautiful children of the stars, how, according to the African Shona spiritual belief system, the ancestors and indeed the creator can sometimes pinch you. That's how we put it. They pinch you. If you've been asleep, they pinch you to awaken you. If you disobey, they can hit your legs with the thin branch. And again, I'm sure most African people of African descent can easily identify with the imagery. You see, our mothers, when they want to chastise you and use the rod, they ask you to go outside and take a branch, a small twig branch of a tree, and bring it. And then they'll hit you on the legs with it. So the ancestors, according to our belief system, the ancestors and the creator sometimes will do that to you to wake you up to the world of spirit. So this has been my post on how I became a spirit medium. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you'll stay with me as we go deeper into the discussions on African traditional spirituality with a focus on the Shona culture. So, this is the Veiled Oracle signing off for today. It's been a pleasure having you. If you like what I talk about and you would like to stay in touch when I post other episodes, I invite you to like, subscribe, and if you've got other colleagues who have a passion for this kind of topic, please do share. I look forward to your comments, and I will respond where I can. And if there are specific questions that I can talk about on my next uploads, I'll be quite happy to do that. And I will acknowledge whoever would have asked that question for our discussion. So keep well. Remember, you matter. If you think you don't, those that think they matter more than you will make decisions on things that matter to you. Keep well.